Let's get together to co-create a breakthrough for freedom of energy, sustenance, healing, and regeneration of the human vessel. Welcome to FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to FESIG's 98th meeting. Today is the 2nd of March, and this is the second session because we just had a wonderful, brilliant, inspiring first session from Palden Jenkins. We affectionately call him Paldi One Kenobi, the wise one. So he's been giving us a beautiful presentation of Penwith, the area where he lives in, talking about the ley lines and sacred sites and all. It's fascinating. Please go to our YouTube channel and look up his video once we have had it published in a while. Okay, we have to prepare before we get it published. So meanwhile, I would like to share screen so that you can see the agenda for the second session. All right, share screen. Share. Oh, yeah, so if you could see, we are the Free Energy Special Interest Group. It is a platform where science meets spirituality, where we invite very interesting, brilliant speakers who are from the science and the spirituality platforms, all balanced, to share their information, their knowledge, their skills, their technology, and everything that we need to learn to progress and to do what we have come here to do. So we have our platforms in YouTube, Facebook. We have our Telegram group as well. So please join us, subscribe, because that's the way you can learn together with us from these awesome speakers that we've got. So you could see on the screen the agenda for today's meeting. We just had Palden Jenkins talking about ancient sites, consciousness work, geoengineering, earth, cosmic energies, Neolithic ancient sites, stone circles, consciousness technology plugged into earth energy and cosmic patterns. And he's got his new book coming out, folks. So if you go to our website, the FESIG's website, you'll be able to see that his name and his photographs, all the speakers is the same. Okay, we'll have a link to their website so you can follow them. All right. So his new book, Shining Land, will be launched very soon. It's based on these principles that he just presented. And we had Dan Winter as well, who gave his pieces of wisdom too, and sharing his thoughts on the technology that he's developing as well, that correlates with Palden's talk today. So now we have the second session where Fernando Vossa of the Vossahedron technology talk on the art and science of holofractal creation. He will talk about identifying the quantum alchemy of energy, fractalization of thought intention, and interdimensional cymatic configurations that result in consciousness expanding architecture that coherently mitigates heat, cold, sound, crystals, water, light, magnetism, plasma, and naturally connect with the Novus templates of master ancestor origins. Vossa's latest co-creation with Akuda Mercideck, who will be speaking with him in this session, a series of advanced consciousness modules, as in the title of the talk. And I'm going to introduce both Fernando and Akuda in a minute. I want you to remind you that you need to pen down in your diary for our next meeting. That is the 99th FESIG meeting on the 6th of April. Okay, pen it down, because we'll surprise you with really amazing, brilliant, some of the most brilliant minds on the planet. Okay, so if you want to write to me, write to crystal@truevisionofpeace.com, go to our website and sign in so that yeah, join us, click on the join us button, and you will be invited formally with our newsletter with reports of meetings and everything that you need to know of what we do. Okay. Thank you very much, folks, for choosing to be with us today in this meeting. And we have really a star-studded audience here today. Well, right. Okay. Without much ado, I'm going to introduce Fernando properly. Fernando is a FESIG secret group member, our inner circle member, well, since the early days. And he is our firm supporter since then. And he came to the rescue when my laptop broke down last summer and immediately got me a replacement of a new laptop, the Asus VivoBook. Wow. You know, it's super duper fantastic. So he got me a new replacement, a new laptop. I'm ever so grateful, Fernando, ever so grateful, because it allows me so that I could continue with FESIG's all important work uninterrupted. That's the idea. Thank you so much, Fernando, bro. You are brilliant. All right, so Fernando is an independent bio-futurist. He's a Terra Healer and an Artivist. Not activist, but artivist. He's also an activist, consciousness activist. In 2013, he focused on developing a whole body regeneration and quantum access chamber dome home called the Vossahedron. The Vossahedron project is an integration of heart-based wisdom and quantum technologies to establish an architecture that regenerates our body at the cellular level, expands our mental capacities, capabilities, and connects us to higher spiritual awareness. By the way, you can go to our YouTube channel and you will be able to see Fernando's presentations in the past. Okay, he's done several talks in the past with FESIG. Vossa's approach is through direct access to his cosmic womb and frequential ascension principles refined from the intention to seed an entire civilization of avatar creator consciousness. Vossa's main thesis is to identify the quantum alchemy of energy, fractalization of thought, intention, and interdimensional cymatic configurations that result in consciousness expanding architecture that coherently mitigates heat, cold, sound, crystals, water, light, magnetism, plasma, and naturally connect with the nose templates of master ancestor origins. Wow. Imagine a healing art installation as home that generates its own electricity, harvests water, and grows organic food while being hurricane and earthquake resistant. Inhabitants are shielded from harmful ratio cell towers, various forms of MK Ultra radioactive fallout. Vossa's bio-futurism lab is called the Center of Mass Creation. Okay, hang on a minute, sorry. Yeah. Mass creation. Vossa's latest co-creation with Akuda, a series of advanced consciousness modules called the Art and Science of Conscious Creation. Now, I would like to introduce Akuda because both of them will be speaking. All right. So Akuda Mercideck is a specialist in working with the multidimensional aspects of DNA. She teaches people to access these codes in their holographic blueprints and recode in order to live to their highest potential. It is a passion to teach people to heal their DNA and to show how to clear destructive DNA patterns from ancestral lineage, trauma, disease, and recode them for activation and alignment with their wholeness, soul light, mission, and purpose. She works with the holographic body, sacred geometry, Akashic records, the crystalline grid system, and other multidimensional realms. Akuda is leading programs on the transformation of the triple helix DNA for the evolution of humanity and living a new genetic lineage for humanity. Her 6-month program is called the Holographic Human From Cell to Soul. Wow. Thank you. Over to you, Fernando.
Wow, that I had to just kind of meditate whenever you read that. And then all of a sudden, whoops, we are next. So Akuda, just triple checking you are here with us. Yep. All right. Yep. So we are going to begin by a activation live right here, a quantum entanglement with our DNA, which is going to be guided directly by Akuda. So I'm going to hand it over to her to do our initial toning.
Thank you. And if I could share screen. There we go. So as I was preparing to come here, I thought, what could I share with all of you in the 20 minutes that I have to share? And so what really came through is the story of all of this working with DNA and creating new types of genetic lineage for humanity, how this all came about. And so about 7 years ago, I was taken by a group of beings that at that point called themselves the Council of Light. And I was taken what felt like out of space and time, and at that had my genetics rewritten by this council, by this group. And in that, what they showed me in what felt like a half a day of genetic rewriting was the 12 strands of DNA and the template that runs through them, connecting dimensions, and how these 12 strands connect to our dimensions and consciousness through 12 dimensions. And so as they were going through and clearing and recoding my DNA, what they were doing is bringing programs forward, like victimization, like lack, like suffering. And in that, as they were clearing those out of my genetics, they started to rewrite my genetics with different spectrums of light and geometry. And so after that time, I came back and my whole life changed. Everything changed. My whole body changed. Where I physically lived changed. My friends changed. I mean, every aspect of my life changed after that experience. And I was radiating light. And when I came back, I thought I was going crazy. And it's actually Dan Winter was the first person that I found who had taken the geometrical light configurations of DNA. And I saw his video on YouTube. And at first I want to honor Dan Winter right now, because that changed my life and let me know that I wasn't going crazy. And so I had this experience, and how was I going to share it with other people? And so as I started to ask myself, how do I give this to others? How do I open up experiences for other people to share in this genetic recoding with consciousness? And so the first thing that started happening, because I didn't come from a lab or a science background, is that I started to go deeper inside myself and build my own technology in order to view myself. So I didn't need these fancy different types of scientific tools that people had. I had to develop them for myself in order to go deeper into the witnessing and the feeling, in order to wield dimensional realms of consciousness that people could come into, tap into, and have the downloaded information. And so the first thing that started happening was different spectrums of color started coming in different planes, vertical and horizontally. And I started to see that these different spectrums of color had encoded information and did different things in the body and through dimensions. They also interacted in a specific way with each other when they connected two planes. They refracted each other. So I started to create a whole course around these different spectrums of color and what they meant when they touched the body with consciousness, how we could use them, how we could wield them as a form of light alchemy. And then I started to look at geometries, because this is exactly what happened to me. These patterns and programs were recoded and cleared with different spectrums of light and geometry, creating whole new fabrics of DNA through my body. And so then I started to really study sacred geometry and what different geometries did for this realm, the human realm, the earth realm, but through the dimensional realms and also in genetics. So I devised another aspect of this where all of these different geometries with used in intention and light become a whole glyph of genetic information that we can insert holographically with our consciousness into genetics. And so having powerful activations and powerful streams of consciousness and connecting with geometry and not learning about it from anybody else, but actualizing through my body, allowing my own intuition to guide and lead me as my own conscious technology of the understanding of all of this. And so then I started to see that all of this was creating these beautiful nested geometries of genetic fabric. And then this started to lead me to understanding holographic structures through genetics. And then it became very apparent that in order to give this, we had to create a new brain-body-like connection that was dimensional. So then started playing with sensorial design, which is designing senses, multidimensional senses with this light and geometry in order to experience our soul as a deeper soul communication of inherent information for us. So then we went into working with the brain and rewiring the brain with different light structures, and then the body. And then changing the actual cellular patterns of our entire being. And then when that started happening, I started to really get clear on DNA. If we continue to treat DNA as DNA instead of a divine natural access for consciousness, it will never unveil all of its incredible, beautiful master ancestral encoding for us. That these genetics are holographic inserts of the Akashic consciousness of all beings, past, present, and future. And so then I asked, following my own intuition, well, show me some proof. And then I started to see different things on the internet. And not that this is my proof is my experience. But this was letting me know that the geometry and the spectrums of colors of light that I was working with were actually happening through genetics. And this bottom part is all a piece of DNA, that the tetrahedrons, that these cubic structures, that these octahedrons were actually happening, and that they were creating the fabric of DNA. And then it started leading into bigger frequencies of information where I started to understand that these were cymatic. They were holocymatic information packets stored within the DNA, and they were emanating out through dimensions. So not only is our genetics a bunch of acids and bases and pairs of chromosomes, which chromosomes are light. They are zones of light. These are the pictures that are stored holographically through our genetics. And not only are they bases and pairs and light, but they are sound and they are holocymatic. And this fields of information kept opening, and watching and seeing these different patterns start to happen within my genetics, allowing me to see that just because I could see something in one dimension doesn't mean it wasn't in another. It means that there was a phasing in and out of quantum nature, that of intelligent information that was coming and going for what was necessary in the moment of a true master design. And then I started to connect and communicate with elements, hydrogen and helium and carbon and all of these things, that then I started to see that our unique structure of the crystalline part of our genetics and through our bone structure of DNA was also connected to all of the crystals and the planets and beyond, and that we were part of some interdimensional, multidimensional web of connectedness through our genetics, through these crystals, through holocymatics, through our consciousness, and that we were braiding interdimensional moments of witnessing as a realm of experience. And so this is hydrogen right here. And hydrogen starts communicating with you and telling you things, guiding you and leading you. And then you start to realize that not only are we creating consciousness, but our consciousness is biomineralizing our body at the same time. We are leaving a genetic imprint through the crystals of our body, not just our genetics and our consciousness of our thoughts. We are leaving, biomineralizing our consciousness through the crystals of our genetics. And through the crystals of our pineal gland. And all of this is one beautiful, incredible, multidimensional quantum intelligence. And we are emanating this through dimensions. And it is time for us to know that we have this kind of power to architect our DNA, to change our patterns, to leave a new genetic lineage for all that come before us, but also for ourselves, for our future selves, because we are all quantumly entangled and we are living it all at the same time. You are your past and present, future ancestor in this now moment. And I hope to inspire everyone about architecting your DNA with consciousness through light and geometry and the things that we want to create, like peace and 1,000 years of peace. That we are masters at alchemy already. And we are time travelers. We are teleporters. We came through the cosmic womb. The womb is a power point, just like our other speaker spoke of. It is another power point of space and time for quantum possibility, just like our thoughts can be. So this led to really understanding holographic structures through genetics with all of these different spectrums of light and geometry as a field coding for holographic structures and how to change holographic structures. And the divine connection that we have with all of the other holographic structures in the universe that we're playing in as elemental alchemists, as conscious alchemists. And I'm here to leave a new genetic of light, a new lineage of light for the new human and the new earth, where we know that through our consciousness, our loving attention to detail and focus with the greater consciousness, that we can change and create anything that we want in this realm and every other realm. And I would like to see us all do it for 1,000 years of love and peace and liberation for all beings. Because we are that powerful. And that started through me, that knowing, that belief, that wielding of holographic information and dimensional frequency started with me paying attention to my DNA and wanting to sit here and tell you all a story that happened to me 7 years ago in the best possible way that I could. And so thank you so much for allowing me. And I hope to come back and tell more of the details of this. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Crystal.
Oh, thank you, Akuda. That's awesome. Wow. The graphics, the pictures that Fernando had come out. Is it from Fernando? It's so beautiful. Oh, wow. It really illustrated what you're saying, hammering home the points. Thank you so much.
I know that I only had about 20 minutes and I wanted to make it the most impactful that I could in 20 minutes, because that is a whole philosophy of new mathematics and new science. And one of the things that Fernando has brought into my life and that I just love is when he talks about MC square, or MC equals...
The formula for energy.
The formula for energy
E equals MC square.
Yeah, thank you. The human thought. And then we started coming up with the different types of genetic for that. So double-stranded DNA, triple-stranded DNA. And, you know, in the future, we will have the genetics of triple helixes and also sextuplet helixes. So, and that will be raised to the power of those genetics, will tell you the types of consciousness of the beings that came from. And when I started to really get into all of this, I started to look at genetics, where all this was coming from in chromosomes and gene structure, and then in past lives and present lives and ancestral memory and hypergenetics. I started to recognize and get downloads of all of these different beings that I had been and other future timelines, and the reconfiguration of our genetics through this light and geometry. It is the basis of all genetics, just in different forms, different constructs. And so that's what my next phase of this is to start mapping out the different genetics of the species, of the 24 founder species that we know of, and to start bringing that forward for humanity.
Wow.
And
that's awesome. And Jim Decode was talking about us Homo sapiens sapiens having 64 strands and all that.
Absolutely. I am just on the tip of the iceberg for something that's infinite. And it's just now really coming forward, really to be seen, really to be shown in this now time. So in this now time, it is happening. It is present, it is here, it is activating. And I am not the only person talking about triple helixes or doing this type of genetic work.
Oh, thank you, Akuda. This is so good. Wow. Thank you.
Oof.
Yeah,
I had to
know.
breathe
Awesome.
that in myself. Akuda and I are a living frequency of what it's like to unite with other light beings as your partnership of co-creation. What is it like to integrate and expand each other's presence and each other's viewpoint and leave it intact? We are each a universe of knowledge. And right this moment, if I am a free energy researcher in a free energy lab, and I have a garage and I'm putting together magnets, I'm suggesting, Akuda and I are suggesting, run and find yourself another consciousness light beam that has awakened to be part of your research, to lead with light, not physics, not science, not engineering. Those are the stepping stones of giants, but now we are at a new level. Anyway.
That's what we've been doing, Fernando, all these years. We've been looking for scientists and researchers and inventors who's got the light consciousness and love, of course, as Akuda was saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a breath. Bring in that opening that Akuda has portaled through for us. And here we go. How to build your light ship. How to apply and put into motion all of this knowledge. How to integrate and rewire our own beings is what we are going to accelerate right now. You're going to look at the cliff notes, a very high speed download that begins with a telepathic field, a realm that everybody can tune into right now. So let's breathe in and bring that communication channel so you could place your consciousness inside these realms right now. This isn't a transmission. This isn't a frequency. I am opening, like Akuda is opening, a portal for your telepathic presence. This is our current paradigm at the moment, that limited focus surrounded by a constructed built environment that had no intention of releasing us, that had no real focus of spirituality, love, and compassion. Which building in any of these cities, which technology, which computer was designed out of love and compassion? I have met with some of the great architects of our time. I have met with some of the great technologists, including Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Larry Ellison and all these others and in the Silicon Valley. And I can tell you they do not have the consciousness that is being unfolded here. What would it be like to connect to our source, our cosmic womb, the true progenitor of truth for ourselves? This is what you're going to experience right now. The truth that is coming through me and Akuda and others. This journey is several decades of work through the world, going to the monoliths and connecting to the stones. Akuda and I and others like us have cultivated a lifestyle of cosmic archaeology, where we go to sites and connect with the stones. You have to go to the mineral level of the earth to glean these frequencies. This is a meditation I did in Sedona, where the sun illuminated the whole portal. Spending time in South Africa with Michael Tellinger, studying the crop circles on several journeys and visits, measuring frequencies, but really tuning my body to be the dowser, as Paul then eloquently places it, and speaking to the monuments of the Anunnaki, the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the Syrians, the Atlantean consciousness, the Lemurian consciousness, and beyond, speaking through the crystal skull instruments. And I'm a technologist. I came from the computer world, and I can tell you these technologies, such here as in Avery, amplifies a genetic communication channel. Pyramids and ancient monoliths are technology to genetically entangle with the consciousness of the beings that created them. Machu Picchu was a mystery school. Akuda and I both have been through hundreds of journeys in ayahuasca, in DMT, in psilocybin, in San Pedro, in peyote, visiting the ancient places where the wingmakers landed, Fajada Butte in Chaco Canyon, where there's a whole underground network. These are trees of ancient forests that were miles high. We have connected to the Kachina, Navajo, Hopi, indigenous roots. This is Chaco Canyon, visiting the Mayan Empire, the connection to places that built ascension chambers, the jungles, the magic spaces where the implosion is possible, where these frequencies are real. And here we are in this cosmic womb of creation. Right now, we recently launched the James Webb Telescope that is going to listen to what so far we know the edge of the universe beyond that event horizon. We can't wait to discover more. But see, we need to develop instruments that can take us deep, much more penetrating into the language of these planets, of these crystals, of these fields of consciousness, and approach all of it as you are interacting with extensions of your own body. Science, the forces are us. We are looking at mirrors of our auric fields. And if we peer deeper and deeper into the vision of the first elemental creation, hydrogen, what is the intention? If we were going to describe what is encoded in hydrogen atoms at the birth of this universe and go inside of one, you know, our current consciousness goes as far as these formulas that predict the electron paths around the nucleus, and they show these little point clouds, and yet we still have the ancient dinosaur table of elements that is no longer serving us. Walter Russell was one of the ones that opened the periodic, frequential, analog, infinite bandwidth understanding. What is inside these thoughts? There's another universe inside, the hollow fractal universe, knowing that every piece contains a piece of the whole. So we would have to rewire ourselves, our brain capacity in this physical body right now, to understand what was the projection of the hologram. How did this happen? And where is it coming from? And what is encoded in it? How do we read infinity? We would have to become infinity instruments ourselves that could connect seamlessly to the cosmic womb, the source of the projection. What is inside? We're going deeper and deeper into the dream, the lucid dream of creator, creatress, God, goddess, before the decision of the universe. In that cosmic moment, in that infinite presence that we each are, is the language of light in water and in crystal and in plasma and in electricity and in other forms of energy we have yet to describe, because how many are there? They are infinite. There's an infinite range of energetic forms to our body. This is where Akuda and I are reading from right now. These ancient monoliths taught us how to interpret this. In our very bodies right now, if we see a scanning electron micrograph image, are these formations, these different crystal geometries that each have a different refraction pattern. And when we look at biology, these imageries of plant life and animal life that are crystal, they are turning into crystal. Carbon turning into crystal is a natural organic process. It's not something you have to meditate and hopefully attain. You're doing it already. Your cells are doing it. We are prisms of light in our presence here on Earth. What would be one of the suggestions I would share with current free energy researchers is to completely transmute the concept of free energy into energy in freedom, light in freedom. That set of words that I just uttered are a whole realm of physics. How do you liberate electricity and light and sound and plasma and magnetism and gravity and crystal energy and thought energy so that they can go crazy as energetic artists? So that when we start seeing those refraction patterns in crystal holography, when we read beryllium, quartz, and all the crystal families, we understand these are maps, star maps of navigating dimensions. You're looking at singularities. The image, you're looking at a picture that is multidimensional when you see light through a crystal. And in order to read these patterns, one would have to cultivate a mind that is synesthetic, synesthetically unite your senses. So you can see, hear, taste, smell, feel, all of it as one being, one thought. So we'll take a breath for a moment. Absorb this, because we're going to initiate a new body within the people who are watching and listening to this. At some moment in your life, and Akuda and I did it, and many others have already done it, and some beings are already born initiated. Just as a star goes through a life cycle and goes supernova to create brand new elements, so can you. This right now is the invitation to go beyond healing. Declare yourself healed right now, complete, and initiate your metamorphosis. Because that decision launches a quantum spark event, a gravity wave. You signal to your ancestors, you communicate with your cells and your DNA, and you are entangled with the whole to say, I am ready. I have made the decision, and now I am now transmitting the future. So this is where we drop vocabulary of reverse engineering. We don't need to reverse engineer craft. We don't need to reverse engineer Tesla's work or anybody else's. We are in creator consciousness. I began talking about victimhood consciousness, that woman with the cell phone, then moved into unity consciousness. You could spend the whole life of your research in any of those areas. Buddhism, many of these great beautiful practices of unification is what gave rise to alchemy, gave rise to understanding that we can transmute one state of energy to another. What Akuda and I are bringing forth right now, as many others, is creator consciousness, where God, Goddess, Creator, Creatus has no clue what is next. The Nine said this. So what is contained in these geometries? Like a cube or any of the Platonic solids and beyond, each one is coded with intention. When we look at a shape, we are looking at light language, a still frame of a glyph that is multidimensional, that has intention with it. So one of the many symbols that will be created in science is a symbol for love that will compute in the formulas, a symbol for compassion, a symbol for evolution of consciousness. We will have mathematics that will be quantum and multidimensional, that will no longer have these variables. They will contain the geometry and the intention of that geometry to become a vortex, a helix of discovery. It launches itself into creative freedom. Creative freedom and energetic freedom and genetic freedom, three ideas of the physical, the mental, the spiritual. If science approached everything in at least three dimensions, we'd be so much further along. Because these geometries want to be more. They want to create more. Let's release our electricity from these forsaken computers. Let's release our magnetic intention from the current devices that we're trying to create right now and create a bigger intention for your energy and freedom projections, your proactive emanations. Free energy should look like something that came from heaven, from an advanced being that traveled 1,000,000 years back in time right now. Because all life is seeking creative freedom to traverse the path of the soul to the point of origin, to the cosmic womb. So even geometry wants to transmute itself, as in the case of these little octahedrons becoming their own DNA strand, their own language of light. Focusing in on the concept, the idea of an octahedron or any of the other geometries, see them in their auric version, the energetic version. Our oscilloscopes can't measure this. Our current technology is barely reaching the understanding of how to play with intention. What is the frequential intention, the algorithmic approaches to your cosmic womb's intention? And how do we transmute our thoughts holocymatically and synesthetically? When I say that, I mean we would unite our left and right hemisphere. We would connect in a meditation, in a transformation, to have all of the systems of the body, the muscular brain, the digestive brain, the skin feeling brain, the skeletal structural brain, and beyond, your lymphatic brain, and all of the systems you even know about, and have your thoughts be able to traverse your entire body so you can become pure energy. Liquid thinking is what we're inviting. This is the next of many thresholds of consciousness. The triple helix structure, as in triple helix DNA, invokes helical triplicity. It is a frequential way of being. One can say, I am in helical triplicity in my thoughts. In this visual example, we're looking at a 3D model of 3, 6, and 9. There are 3 turns at the top of the cone in purple, and the green is the next frequency down is 6 turns, and the gold copper in the center is 9 turns, 3, 6, 9, and then inverted, and then a phase conjugate point. That means the ends of the 2 cones, and then that process begins again. This is the way our thoughts could be. This is the way our intentions could speak frequencies into form. And this pattern can be multiplied into a full lattice, whether you're thinking in triplicates, sextuplets, and 12-dimensional thoughts. Like a chess player, a beginner can think 2 or 3 moves ahead, an intermediate, all the way to a chess master can think 6 moves ahead. It takes a lot to go beyond that exponentially. Well, in frequencies, they multiply also, not exponentially, infinitely. And if we were just doing nothing but studying the toroidal vortice helical trigons of helical triplicity, we would train our body and our cells to have thoughts that encompass body, mind, spirit, technology that acknowledges human intention, and genetic master templates, all of it. So let's take a deep breath and see this image right now. Don't need to say anything. This is the realm, the metamorphosis from 2-stranded to infinite-stranded energetics and beyond. as we travel in our body lightship, in our soul lightship, that is energy in freedom, thought in freedom. And if we could go into that kind of singularity, go into the beam of our thoughts, and learn the voice of Creator, the frequencies that spoke the universe into form, the infinite bandwidth, organic technology of creation as creator beings, release right now any limitation, any contradiction in your cells that were invoked or contaminated by your family or religion or trauma in your life or chemically or matrix. Beyond that, beyond any AI, is infinite natural intelligence. Because the ancestors that speak to us through our Akashic connection, through those monoliths that we visit, already have an entire universal civilization across all creations, and have portals and light ships and docking spaces for our consciousness. They're already in use. And when we traverse these singularities, these black holes, we enter as soul consciousness. No need for a flying saucer. And we have our configurations. We can configure our consciousness. And these singularities are points of transmutation from one frequency to another, from one octave to another. Each of these hollow fractal images we are sharing are a realm of physics of consciousness into themselves. Each of these spheres of thought you could study for 10 years to understand what is being shared or absorb them instantly. What do your intentions look like right now? As a being who has traversed time and space in a lightship consciousness, what do you look like 1 billion years from now? Could you see yourself? Could you stand in this physical body as a scientist, as a researcher, as a human cosmonaut of consciousness and take off the parachute and just be with your truth? Science is personal from now on. Creation physics are intimate from now on. They involve you. And learn how to glimpse at infinity all the points in space. Learn that there are sense organs like eyes and ears of bodies that are galactic. We have an entire module just on sensorial design, how to design cosmic sensibilities that create reality as well as are propelled by the past. We're talking about triple helix propulsion systems, not repulsion systems that we have right now. We have explode, burn, somehow destroy something to force our way through space. That's never going to work. Those are repulsion systems. Propulsion systems are moving us toward our creative freedom of the cosmic womb. And the last few pieces here are to understand that we can think in terms of universal units. Pixels of creation can fit inside our current brain. We can think of all the lattices, the arrangement of galaxies easily. We can take a hydrogen atom in our bodies, a helium atom, or any of the elements, and communicate with any of them and look at the places, each of the molecules in your body. Where have they been? Which stars have you been? Which universes have you been? Each molecule in our body gives us that free birthright knowledge, that knowing. Molecular star maps is one of many sciences being predicted by what Akuda and I are showing right now. We call this holocymatic orchestration. The patterns of the Schrödinger equation, forgiveness for that pronunciation, the many forms of the hydrogen and helium atoms are infinite. We're going to find that these so-called point clouds is just the baby step into understanding the umbilical connection of our womb to creation. We'll understand this language easily and playfully. It has a sense of humor too. These are crop circles of consciousness in molecules. And we will have the language of creator elements where these patterns, these cymatic hollow fractal orchestrations speak in light language of plasma, electricity, crystal, water, magnetism to form pixels of the universe. All right. And I'll leave off with where we are right now. You're looking at an instrument that was introduced in one of the FESIG talks that I did as the Healing Codex, which is now the Creation Codex. We can't go into this, but we're showing it just to show the knowledge of working with a 12-dimensional Stargate instrument to create reality. And at the center is that 12-pointed star. When we zoom in, it has the language of creation as these frequencies. This is an engine of mass creation. And here is the 3D printed model of the Vossahedron, the first molecule as an ascension chamber of its type on this planet, using all of this knowledge. I'm taking everything that I know. Akuda and I are invoking that all disclosure, all whistleblowers right now step into a metamorphosis of invoking a new reality. All experiencers, all of these star beings that are here can unite and become artists of creation. And then take your idea as far and as wide as it can go. Just like a star that dreams of being a nebula that seeds new universes. Gratitude. Here we are.
Wow. It's amazing. I love your artwork. So brilliantly beautiful and colorful.
Thank you, Chewy. Thank you to our FESIG team, Franz, POTUS, James, and all our star family that joined us today, and all of the Light Tribe from the Holographic Human series that is supporting us. What do you think? Wouldn't this be fun to just play with this kind of approach to what we call right now free energy? And just completely, to me, the word free energy has been co-opted, corrupted just as much as the word sustainability. I am no longer interested in free energy. I'm interested in creative freedom.
Absolutely.
Because it's not going to help us to have boxes that generate electricity to power our toasters anymore. That's not going to do much anymore. We should have ascension technology at our fingertips. And it begins with this body right here. Our transformation of our own thinking process, of our own mitosis of our cells, of activating all these senses, and our 64 sensorial gifts. Then we can go back and approach all these energies we're working with, plasma and all of them, as having a family meeting, right? Does this feel nice?
Yes.
Chewy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We view plasma. I'm sorry. We view
chat.
plasma and electricity as master ancestors, as our family that are here to show us and teach us and communicate with us and be our allies in new creations. They're not separate from us.
Absolutely. If you look at the chat, you see you have a standing ovation.
There's a lot of people on this call that are in the Holographic Human From Cell to Soul course. And I know that we didn't get to the science part of the genetic part, but I have seen this work for over 10,000 people. And I can stand firmly in what I say and what has come through me and what I've given to others and what they have wielded with their own genetics. I can stand firmly in that. And I hope sometime we get to come back and have a larger portion that we can come back and go into the more science-based part of what we're creating. Because
and we
that's
share
also,
in a way to establish creative freedom. We're not saying this is the only way or this is the way. We're saying you're watching a human walk on water in the field of consciousness right now. What does it look like if a human activates all 100% of their brain capacity? How far could we see? You're looking at it. It's possible. How much would it take for someone who is tied to the dogma of science, so married to Newtonian physics and quantum mechanics, to release themselves from those chains and rewire their whole system from scratch and establish a new palette? What we're saying is design your own physics right now, design your own reality.
what I think we're coming from is what really is morphogenetics. It is being able to be a conscious morphing structure, to release any old patterns and create a new reality, establish a new reality with your consciousness that you want to participate in. That is morphogenetics. And so breaking down, being able to let go of the things that we think that we know, and having
by the way, this might change next week.
Experiences in the moment of your soul consciousness with the universe, that leads to something so grand and so beautiful, so connected, so intelligent. It's unmistakable. It's unmistakable when you are that connected and when you are not connected in that way.
Someone in the chat asked, how do you do this? You create, you invent, you make it up for yourself, knowing your intuition is spot on, knowing that everything you felt as a child was the truth. And begin by saying, if I was able to speak to myself 1,000,000 years in the future, what would I teach myself? We don't reverse engineer, we forward envision. We create from here forward. This talk was created not too long ago. It's hot out of the oven.
Yeah. And, you know, in order for people to have the visionary skills to see their genetics, to go into their genetics and consciously create with light and geometry, it's important for them to be able to see. So I have created a whole bunch of techniques on holographic sight, how to start accessing holographic sight through the body, through your visual system, your first eye into the body, and being able to start seeing this type of multidimensional web that's happening. So this is where the creative part comes in. It's like, I already inherently had that. That is a gift of mine that I came into this realm with. But in order to give it to other people, I had to create techniques around it, conscious techniques that people could follow, protocols that people could follow in order to start accessing and creating that new type of fabric connection inside of themselves. And that starts with creativity.
Thank you, baby. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's good.
Victor Schauberger right now is on the edge of his seat watching this. Tesla is right now Tesla bought a front row seat to this talk. Walter Russell gave his firstborn to see humans talk like this.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying. When you get to the point where you feel that way about your role. And we're saying this to all the individuals who are watching now. You are the Messiah of your own creation. You are the agent and the expert in your own universe. Teach us where you come from. Show us what is your truth. And we're going to do this in energetic, creative freedom. I am not going to judge or add or modify your transmission, your communication. I'm going to create a container of love that will surround your truth so that it has creative freedom to expand more. I don't want to hear about skeptics that suffer from the burden of disbelief. I'm not interested in feedback that is some kind of criticism. What we're looking for now are people who are stepping into their creator consciousness as artists. And I want to clarify one more time. You have just experienced a new kind of technology that is an art installation for your soul. Your soul, your consciousness, your mind right now has placed itself in an art gallery of thought intention. You're looking at paintings that each is a realm of thought. Go back and listen to this talk and watch how your genetics, your cells, your goosebumps go, I know about this. I know that there's more in me. Right, Akuda? And if you feel rejection is like, oh, who are these freaks? They don't know anything. Where do they know this? Were they taken from aliens? Yes, we've been on craft. Were these guys talking to, the interdimensionals? Yes, of course, Well, what degrees do I have? All of them. What's my PhDs? I'm making it up right now. Watch. As a matter of fact, I'm consuming myself, my matrix self, as we Akuda and I say, like a moth going right into the fire and inviting you guys to come into a star chamber of elemental creation. Whenever I get to a point in my life where I feel that, this stuff going on across the world and the kukarach and, that's what we call it and all that, I take that AI and I grab it and say, step into my star furnace with me and be consumed with me and watch us turn into hydrogen and helium, beryllium, boron, and so forth, carbon, silicon, gold, and let's see what other things we can be together. Mm-hmm. We are prepared with truth to speak in front of the new United Nations. I would have no problem speaking at the Salk Institute, which I've been to. I have no problem going to back in Stanford or SRI, the places that I used to be, and speaking this truth. I would speak at Google right now. I would speak at the Silicon Valley and present the understanding of young people creating new platforms of consciousness, not metaverse, not this, but we as the star beings, as the awakening ones, can specify right now what it is that we would like. What do we want in social media of consciousness? We don't complain anymore. We forward envision it. I used to be one of those Silicon Valley nerds.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Akuda. Akuda, would you be able to tell us more about when you first read Dan Winter's book and you saw his explanation of what would you want to elaborate a little bit?
It actually wasn't a book I read. It actually wasn't a book I read. It was a YouTube video that he did about the geometry of the heart and DNA. And the reason I had looked it up specifically because I had gotten information by journeying inside my own body that the field of the heart, the actual pumping of the chambers of the heart were creating the propulsion system for the braiding of genetics. And it was one of those things that's like, who knows about that? So I just looked it up, and Dan Winter actually had a video, and this was like 7 years ago. And that completely changed my life. It gave me that confidence out there that like, I'm what I'm seeing is valid. What I am seeing and experiencing, there are words to. People have words to it, and
math. That's what I love.
And math and like
Dan
all of
Winter
that.
went in and created the mathematical proofs, which I don't have that capacity. Even though I studied cosmology and astrophysics, I went deep into calculus for years that did not serve me. When I saw one of Dan's Winter talks about 8 years ago, he was in a garden with one of his assistants. I knew he recently was kicked out of Quackademia and funding pooled and labs shut down, all that. And I said, this is our guy. This is the kind of...
He's here. Dan, you want to say a few words about that? Go on then, Dan.
Taking a break.
Go to sleep.
It's a lot to ask. We know that it takes, to watch a 40-minute talk or an hour and all this material. I feel my whole pulsing pineal right here of how much energy it took to project this.
Wow. Anyway,
we are also artists that give others the permission by example, the inspiration to go wild, go buck wild with your creativity. Be an artist of thought.
You ought to have an art exhibition with that.
Oh, all the content you looked at.
Yeah.
You're looking at a storyboard. We have hundreds of images, by the way. Imagine if we made a holographic film that told the story of ascension in these storyboards of all these different transformations. We can develop curriculums for avatar creators. We are the seed to new civilizations that would populate planets with cities of consciousness. That have no physicality.
Dan Winter is going to go down as the person who eloquently described the physics of bliss. And I mean, it's going to be epically recognized on this planet. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yes, thank you. We've gone to a lot of work to try to really make it into a rigorous electrical engineering language. You guys have wonderful enthusiasm, and also you have youth and great visuals. But it is true that when we add the real electrical engineering description, then we can bring it to universities and governments. It becomes more shareable. So, we fit together well. I can help a little bit with the physics here. When you measure the harmonics of the brain waves during bliss, flameandmind.com, and measure that effect on the DNA braiding, and actually measure the DNA, as Glenn Ryan did at our DNA manifesto and our conferences. So we put this together well. You guys teach this and we'll evolve together when we're happy to work with you.
We need each other. We all have
then for triggering that bit of trigger that Akuda needs.
Yeah.
And to me, it is such a heartfelt reunion to see Dan again, because when I presented the art and science of conscious creation in Holland in 2012, a decade ago, it was not received. You know what the heck we were talking about.
People weren't ready yet.
But that's okay. It had to gestate.
That's good. And I'm glad that you have a wonderful partner there, and I'm sure you'll go far. And let's add the science and make it a shareable wave.
We need to come up with the extended physics, as you have eloquently done, Dan, of all of what we've talked about and more. Obviously we can only show a glimpse. And yes, to be with Akuda for me has completely transformed my life. To find another.
That's a beautiful thing.
We're happy for you, bro.
And I think that it's very powerful to follow your own intuition, and you can back it up with science, and that's what Dan Winter is here for. He's got that. He's brilliant. But it's the power of following your own intuition and your own train of thought that can lead to great things that we've seen on this platform from other people. And such an honor to be here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what, Dan?
Follow your bliss, absolutely.
Yeah, follow your bliss. Yeah.
And what we've done is we've turned that into technology like Flame and Mind, Bliss Biofeedback for brainwaves, the imploder.com, implosion for water, and then therify.net, bliss in plasma and rejuvenation. And when people see that there are technologies that specifically implement these ideas, it makes it a more shareable wave. And it's not that you have to spend money or buy a gadget, but you just see that the physics fits the metaphysics.
Absolutely. We're looking for a piece of land right now. And one of the things that I would love to do is offer rebirthing experiences with breath for, and to get away from people using psychedelics and plant medicines, and to be able to rebirth people for like the new human in the new earth. And I would love to have a Therify at the center that I would like to create. It's like, I mean, that's part of the reason that I'm creating that center is to have a Therify there, because I know the plasma intelligence, because it is communicated to me intimately. And now to be able to have that and give it to other people is, yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes. And Therify has been used in relaxation for birthing. I would recommend considering underwater birthing. And the real physics of rebirthing is the fact that the birth canal's point of max pressure is golden ratio into the duration, the length. And so that's literally blissfully implosive. And that's how memory comes through birth. And the reason underwater birthing increases IQ is it reduces the rate, the speed, the discontinuity, and the decompression of the skull bones, which unpack dodecahedrally. And so there's this whole physics of rebirthing that fits the physics of plasma.
Absolutely.
I think there's a Therify here in Arizona, right?
Yeah, there's a lovely
there is.
Sedona.
I'm in New Mexico, and Akuda's in Arizona right now.
Oh,
We're
I
both.
see. That's great.
But the physics of rebirthing, but also the physics of your own cosmic womb, of how you have time traveled, teleported, and alchemized a whole physical being and portaled. I mean, you opened a portal to come into this dimension, and to be able to be birthed, and that field of birth coming in is like being struck like with organic lightning that activates your whole code.
That's true.
Is so important for people to have that experience who didn't get to have that experience. I know for myself and Fernando, we were in incubators right after we were birthed, and then you bring in, vaccines and all the other stuff and blah, blah, blah. And, so it is so important for people to have that connection of their consciousness being rebirthed and reborn.
And it is
as a potentiality point.
That's right. It is the perfect connection, that blissful implosion point. It's perfect compression. So yes, we can have some great fun. Happy to play with you guys.
All right, Dan. You are, it's like the mob has their attorneys. We, the light, has our physicists, and you're one of our mob attorneys. Because I came from that secret space program world, working in stealth technology and AI for destruction. And imagine if I can save myself from that. I know both sides. James and I have had those conversations too about what's it like when you've been on the inside. I've seen what these dastardly companies are doing. Great. We can now build bridges of technology to bring entire generations of young people to see what is possible.
That's work. Yes, it's educating the young. Absolutely. I'm with you. Perfect. Exactly. Blessings. Let's do it. All good.
Yes.
Yay!
and love to all of the giants that have infused, all the disclosure people, all the whistleblowers that have been part of our awakening, and all the movements that have done their best to get things moving. We honor them with this work, with this language.
Elena Didon has been working with us now, and we're having fun. It all fits together. Exactly.
Everybody has a piece of the puzzle.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, we love her work.
I think we need to close now, because it's really late in Europe.
Yeah, that's right. We got to go to bed.
Over to you, Fres.
Oh, I was just going to say, Fernando, we talk from scientist to scientist, but here's from artist to artist.
Oh, let me see. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You drew as well, Fres.
Yeah, this is
Friends,
while you were talking.
I'm receiving this with love, and Akuda and I both.
Yeah.
You have liberated your mind.
We talk all the time of like what really drives creation. and we feel its creativity. And when you drew that, like, how good did you feel? Like, how did it activate you? And then to see it, and now you're sharing it, and we're all like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, creativity is such a powerful implosion point for activation and connection. And thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. And I was going to say, in our energy teams that where we're doing the research, one of the things that we're finding out is since about 1951, the educational systems have been converting everything of knowledge into everything of lies. And so you can't just say, no, that isn't right, but you realize that you were not given all the parts for proper learning and knowledge. And so you go inside and you say, what is right? What is correct? You know, and what is just plain out fibbing and misinformation? And you have to sort it out. We find that the information is in the details, is in that there's some little parts that are still left in our curriculum that give us the key to go forward. And this is what we're doing as a team. And we thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Gratitude for opening this platform.
I know for me, when I started this, and I didn't have access to, major equipment to do my own consciousness scientific research. When I read Walter Russell, and back in the 1927 or whatever, one of his books, look at what that man downloaded without equipment. Like, it is phenomenal, and it is still clear as the bell, clear of what his consciousness was experiencing and how he was able to articulate it. And he is one of my biggest heroes. And so that's what we try to do. We just try to articulate our experiences to the best of our ability in a creative way, so that it feels alive, and it invites all kinds of different ways that people wield their consciousness and wield the way that they like to play and receive information and can participate in information. So, but I thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Let's go around the table. Pontus, you got anything that you want to add?
Not more than it's fantastic, and you have the right way to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pontus.
So what about James? James, have you got any last say before we close the meeting?
Oh, thank you, Fernando, for sharing all that, and as well as Akuda. Fernando, do you have an update on what the status of your project is with the dome homes?
Yes. The first part of that was that I stepped away from my own project a few years ago. It's just I wasn't getting funding, and I'm reiterating this only because many of us have experienced that. No acceptance, nowhere to start, no recognition, no accredit, blah, blah, blah. So I went in and transformed this body and this mind, including getting off of addictions of any substances, no drinking, no smoking, no nothing, to be in full clarity. That process of doing that has redesigned the Vossahedron as an ascension chamber, not just an ecological home. So right now I'm in New Mexico. I bought a tiny piece of land, half an acre, near Albuquerque, Los Lunas, in the desert. I want to build a stone monolithic version of the Vossahedron by hand, while bringing attention to it as an art piece of consciousness. So I'm going to be marking the site, building it out of stone, putting a small team together, and opening up the research of levitating rock with sound frequencies, being able to generate plasmatic fields with crystals inside the structure, so we can start doing quantum access through meditation in just pure nature organic, no electronics. But out of that, this will be this whole spring and summer. Out of that is to bring attention.
Will you document it on videos to share?
Oh, it'll be fully videotape step by step. We're going to have an invitational. We're going to, through FESIG and other groups, we're going to invite people who want to participate, come out and do a build. Alosha is also one of our deep consultants in eco construction. He's in Russia right now, and you guys have had him here because we also need help. But this is finally to build the first stone crop circle in this part of the world.
Well done.
Yeah. So thank you, James, for that question. And anybody who wants to know about the Vossahedron project, I invite you to look at the FESIG. I think it was 60 something and 70 something. There's at least 2 or 3 FESIGs that talk about this project.
Just go to
I can honestly say I, as a human, was not ready for my own technology. I had to transform myself before I could bring it forth. Yeah.
Yeah, we can safely say that in our team, we're in the same position. We're not ready for our technology.
Thank you. And I love that you're putting together the different teams of different forms of energy. Kinetic energy is once on the table. I strongly invite a consciousness energy team that is building consciousness technology.
Right. So I would like to invite all of you to speak, but unfortunately, the time is of the essence, and it's already 12 midnight where Pontus
Oh my gosh. We'll let you go. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm running off into the wilderness to go soak in a hot spring in the mountains of New Mexico.
So there being no other business, I would like to thank the speakers, Fernando and Akuda. Thank you so much for such an enlightening presentation.
And
Paul, thank you, Dan, for your input as well. We are so blessed.
We are so blessed.
Having no other business. Now, this 98th FESIG meeting is adjourned to the 99th on the 6th of April. Thank you, folks. What does we can